Okay, we're bottom on page Reish Daled. So we're saying that the Avodas Habir of Nefesh Habahamis is through davening. Davening is the time that we ma'er the Nefesh Halikis, the Avir, and that's the lev of Tefillah. And the lev is the Mizbeach, and the Mizbeach we makib the Nefesh Habahamis which means we elevate the Nefesh Habahamis. So that's the first. And okay, the important thing what he said was just like in the regular Kabbalahs. Kabbalahs had to be in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Mishkan is the hour of Shema, because the koyach to be mevarer is to the hour of Shema. But he says there's so the same thing is just like in the Beis Hamikdash. The Akovas Hakorban is in the Mishkan, which is the hour of Shema. Similarly, in davening has to be dafka by Beis HaKnesses. Ein philosophy shalom nishmas by Beis HaKnesses, because Beis HaKnesses is the shul, the spiritual environment of the shul, the makif of the shul is like the shema that gives the koyach to be mevar to the davening should be k'leboy. Now he says another point. The inei Ravame v'Ravas have a masa makom de gas. Says that the Rav Rabas did not, but davening not just in a shul, but b'makom degas in a Beis Hamedrash, in a place they learn. Means that it's not only the shul as the give the koyach, but also the learning, makom degas. They davened in the same place they learned, which means that the learning gave them the koyach to daven. So that fits what says Ma'or Chazal. The first Ma'or Chazal said that Mikdash matters, but the Knesses, that the shul replaces the Mikdash. But there's another way to get the koyach milmayla to be mevar is to Torah, because Torah also is like the Beis Hamikdash. So this Dal Damas Shalacha, the learning Torah, that gives us the power to daven properly. And why? Because that Torah, nice and koyach, but they live for the Nefesh Habahamis. Torah is the one who gives us koyach to elevate the Nefesh Habahamis. Lav dafka v'abir Nefesh Habahamis. Now so that he stopped one point. That brings another point. That Torah really does two things. In addition to help the build Nefesh Habahamis, it also helps the Nefesh Halikis. Lav dafka v'abir Nefesh Habahamis, it can take Nefesh Halikis. Also elevating and repairing the Nefesh Halikis. The Gam Nefesh Halikis are tikkun. The Nefesh Halikis also needs tikkun because Nefesh Halikis is affected by its environment. So in order to protect the Nefesh Halikis, to fix the nefil of Nefesh Halikis, for that we need the Torah. That's the concept of Shei Dasim Chatchila, that before you affect the Davar Mizbara, you have to the person who does it has to adorn himself first, which means he has to reach himself to the high state. Like he said earlier, he explained that in order to be mild the korban, has to be means that there has to be the tshuva. The tshuva was the of Nefesh Habahamis in order to be mild the korban. Nefesh Habahamis has to be in a state of tshuva so that the korban should be oil. So similarly, Shem tzarich korban tzarich litzak kshay da'atzma tchilah Shabbos, kamay kon shel tzarich korban Nefesh Habahamis tzarich da'atzma tchilah Nefesh Halikis, shezeh korban Nefesh Halikis kamay shezbah, which means that the Nefesh Halikis itself has to reach a higher madrega, and only then can Nefesh Halikis be mevad Nefesh Habahamis. And Torah gives Torah, we said before, that Torah less than koyach, Torah gives koyach both. It gives koyach Nefesh Habahamis, it gives koyach Nefesh Halikis. Zeh ma Torah nika oiz v'toshia. So it says that Torah is called oiz v'toshia. Oiz zo Nefesh Halikis, and toshia Nefesh Habahamis. Oiz means strength. It gives Nefesh Halikis. Toshia means, I think, the opposite. Toshia means wash tosh koyach kenekeva. Tosh means weakening. it strengthens, the Torah strengthens the nefesh elikis and weakens the, obviously, the evil part, the selfish part of nefesh habaris. He just said Moshe is biased. He goes into a new discussion here, and eventually I'll come back to what Torah does. He goes into, in order to explain this, he goes into a long new discussion. Explain what Torah, what is the function of Torah. The Torah gives the koyach to fix nefesh kis and nefesh habaris. Loving zeh in Ksi, Ma Maser Havai, Panksi Magad Maser Havai. That the psukim say that the Eibishter's ma'asim, the Eibishter's deeds, creations are abundant and great, Gabo and Godel. In he explains that more deal. In Maser Havai, Koy, Ruben Yivrim, Shetzal Badad Madrig is the Tzcham. Rabba Maser means the abundance, the multitude of nivoim shni sabo me'adad nadeges doim tzemei chai medaber sheshoy b'nivoim doim tzemei b'chai v'pilo medaber sham kem nivoim. So basically, the Rabba Masech describes the tremendous quantity of the nivoim. Zeh shebech David HaKadosh Baruch Hu shekol hariv nivoim. So now he adds a chassidus pshat. Rabba Masech Havai means that, but the shvach is not just look how great you are, created so many things. It means something deeper. All this great, huge quantity of nivoy that was created, it's only maasecha. It's only something very external to the Eibush. It's maasecha. It's koyach hamayis. There's another, you say in davening, also ma'aseh yadecha. Shemat ma'aseh yadecha. It's only the acts of your hands. It's similar to koyach hasiyah sheba'adam, the person's koyach ha'ma'aseh shekoyach ha'yesarach ha'ma'aseh chitzayin, you will chirsa nefesh. It's the lowest and the most external part of koyach ha'nefesh. So that's the mashal. The nimshal is the creation of the world, which is Rabba Masecha, but it's only Maaseh. It's only something very external. That's the expression Chazal. The creation of the world is from the Madrege of Dibo. The Eibishter speech creates. Dibo has two levels. The two levels in Dibo. Dibo be'etzem and Dibo shechoshev ma'aseh. This Dibo be'etzem means speech for the sake of speech. The first time we learned that I was machalek between a person who just speaks philosophy, speaks something for its own sake, and then there's speech. Maybe they might say you say something that turns into action. You tell people to do things. You tell not only people, like I said, the Gemara says in the Gemara speaks about when the person stops the animal from eating by screaming at the by screaming at the animal, it's also considered action. So that's a speech that brings to action. That's diva maybe the mice. That's the two parts. It's in Diva itself has two stages. It's called Chagas and Nehi. Which means just like the midas chesed gvura tiferes are the essence, the midas themselves, and Nehi is just the chitzonic expression of the midas, the enactment, execution of the midas. The mayor said within Dibo as bottom of this madrigas, but Dibo shchoshev ma'aseh or happiness at Nehi shebedibo shekach esarach. We say that Dibo shchoshev ma'aseh is the lowest madrigas. Again, so we say that Rabba Masecha Hashem is all the creation is only Masecha. Masecha is his act, which is his Dibo. The Dibo shchoshev ma'aseh, the lowest level in Dibo. So when we get to our purpose in this Maimon is to bring out how the act of creation is something is the lowest, the most external madriga in the Likus, in page Reish Hey. Ma Godel Maasecha. Now that's Rab Maasecha. Ma Godel Maasecha is Godel means not Rabu is quantity, a lot, abundance. Godel means great. It's more like quality. So he says, what is Godless? In quality Gufa, he speaks a few stages. He starts from the bottom. Number one, Anivoim al Yoinim Shem Gam Kemasecha, Gam Gdel Anivoim. The Masecha, the Gdel Anivoim, Gam Gdelim Malosan, they are very high level in quality. Zeo Raga Haisna Kulum Shekha Haisna Kulum Chulu. The Gemara says, Me'osa Kia Malach Takshon. So it's like Malach Takshona, which is a very huge, huge space. And then it says which all means that all the Madrigas Lamailo are godly. They're great, they're big. Another Chazal says, Mala b'sheshelam Shem Gdolim Ba'atzma, that Malach takes over a third of the universe. So that all shows the greatness. But in our case, Gdolim doesn't only mean in like space. We're not talking about physical space, we're talking about spiritual space. The truth in spiritual space is the same. And the Rambam says, what B'mei Badla Malachim Zem is that everybody has his own spiritual content. That's what great means. The Gedul of the Malachim is not only that they're huge, big, also not in the physical sense. In addition to that, they also have a greatness in their stage, in their level of holiness. Not holiness, but the fact that they're great in the level of their perception of Likus. I'm Kodesh Baruch. They say Kodesh Kodesh, Baruch Hashem Kaimai. Every day they mahal the Eberster, Shemahalim, Shachon Baruch. They praise the Eberster, which means it's all like an expression of their asaga, of their understanding of Likud. So that shows that this malach are not only great in the own, let's say they're very smart, or I don't know. The concept smart applies, some kind of high spiritual state, but also the connection to the Eberster is great. But the famous deal that in the Koteter says the Gdoishim who are the Malachim, what level of Likus did they reach? Only Shimcha. Shagos is Shem V'Aldovad. That the only level of Likus they reach is only Shem V'Aldovad. Only a name, like we all know, the marshal considers a shame, just like a name of a person, is only needed by the other person to call him. In other words, something external. It's not something that the person needs mitzad atzmai. So that's a marshal. Same thing in the Nimshal. You say Shimcha means only external expression. Now he just says that the etzem shame is above mice. Shame itself is above mice. It said maasecha. The fact that shame is higher. The mice mice. The action is something that separates. When an artisan creates something, so whatever he created is separated. When artist and create something, and you take that object and you walk away, the creator doesn't follow. It's separated. It's a separate being. There's a marshal. The Rebbe recreates the entire universe constantly, every moment. It's compared to Meiser. It's separate from Melikus. There's shame, but in the name we see a positive thing. We take a set shame is taka horror, but I think it's a shame. When someone made something, someone wrote a book. So you take that book and you walk away with the book. The book does not pull the writer of the book with it. You take the book away. The name is also when he called the person by its name, so the person himself turns. So the name has something to it which is deeper than mice. Shashem yesh Hashem nif now batzmo say look Shashem yesh le shach discussion letzem. Actually yes, if Hashem it discussion letzem. Come yesh le shach discussion letzem. It's true that the name itself is something external, not connected, but it is in a deeper level. It's connected to the essence. So when you call the person, he turns to you. He doesn't need it. The atom doesn't need the shame. The shame is only meant for the other person. The melee is something external. Sheni, when he called the person by the name, he turns his own essence to you. So basically what he's saying is there's a mile in there's the creation of the world, which is Ma'asecha. Creation of the world is like Nivdo, and then there's a higher level, Godlu, that the Maisim, the spiritual creatures the Eibishter created, which are the Neshamas and Malachim, they have some kind of connection because they Shtabach Shimcha, they praise the Eibishter's name, which means they do connect to him. But I don't know what, but I'm not sure yet why he brings this entire point here, because he wants to bring out the opposite point. Mikolmakim, that's the point he was bringing out. Even when the etzem is nimshach, what do we get? We only get an external part of him. Eibishter himself is still removed from the elements. The expression in Pasuk is V'Hakadosh V'Shamayim V'Oretz Shu Kodesh V'Ma'u Ma'u 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 Ma'u. Kodesh means Kodesh Lashon Muvdol, like Rashi says, G'dashim Tir Purushim Tir should be separated, it should be removed. So the Eibishter says Kodesh V'Shamayim V'Oretz. He himself, unlike his name, which is we can put his name, we can relate to him. He himself is removed. So that answers the famous question, not question, I mean the statement. There's no shin in the Eibishter. So this is the statement. This is the concept that he started in the top of the page. In the Ksiv that this is this bonus that we say. What of this psukim we say in davening? They're part of our experience during davening of this bonus of the contemplation of the greatest of the Eibishter. She's bonus calls that is bonus. That's contemplation. The fact that all these geluim that create the Ribbonim Voim, the Gdolim Voim, is our bilvad. But in Sof, Kodesh Muvdul, Hashem and the Eibishter himself is totally above it. Is a pearl benafshe. What effect does it have in a person? Pearl benafshe lishtapa nafshe over here. It creates a feeling in the nefesh to spill over with yearning for the Eibishter himself. V'nichsav and also nefesh b'chulayim, the truth is a nefesh himself, and the nefesh in the state of yearning and aspiration to desire to connect to the Eibishter. Because of midah b'shamayim mishal chapatzti ba'oretz. Famous passage in Shamayim, midah li b'shamayim mishal chapatzti ba'oretz. The Alter Rebbe is to say pshat that Shamayim הוא גן עדן וארץ גן עדן תחת, שכל זה הוא הגילויים לאינסוף. שמיים בארץ הוא גילויים לאינסוף. וחפצתי, אם לא חפצתי, so you don't, what you want, what the person really wants is פנימיוס הארץ שלא חפץ, is פנימיוס הארץ רק לעצם זה אינסוף. That is the izbainanus that's supposed to, in davening, that's supposed to, that affects our feeling to wanted to connect to the Eibush. So why? What prevents us from actually reaching it? What is it? Why don't we actually reach that level of inspiration and excitement and emotion to sorry, one second. What gives us this emotional yearning? What prevents us to be mispal b'nafshe b'rotzen chayv tzamiti? Actually, so the pasuk you just quoted asked that question that we just said. Why isn't no mispal b'nafshe? That is the novi questions. Ani avaylo shenisi v'atem ne'akav le'kilisem. Ani avaylo shenisi. I'm not changeable, which means that you recognize them. That is b'nei shani avaylo shenisi, or it's a nefesh. Two, this b'nei shenisi that should have created in the nivoim and the people, not nivoim, and the people daven the misbainen should be placed on nefesh. Masha loikilisem, why taka loikilisem? The answer to that is Bnei Yaakov. That's Hashem Bnei Yaakov. Because you're in a state of Yaakov, that causes you loikilisem, that you don't reach close on nefesh to these bainos. What is Yaakov? Yaakov has Yud Eikev. Yaakov is the remez of the concept of Yud Eikev. It means that we're in such a level, we're in a spiritual level of Eikev, which is the hill. Shonoroi, Pres HaKevayim, the hill. Shonoroi, we see Shakevayim, the hill of a person, that the heel of the foot is the most crude part of the body. That is why the heel has no expression of the nefesh. The heel is an example. I think sometimes it brings a marshal. Siddur brings a marshal that you can put the heel in a hot water. I don't remember, but the heel is like the furthest, the least part of the least alive part of the body. So the heel is like a muscle of the lowest and most crude part of the body. What's the name? They say the neshama is in a state of life. Some neshama is also in that stage of akevayim, like heel. The neshama doesn't have the gilui. So that's the end of Yaakov. That's the first understanding, the first remez in Yaakov. Yaakov that it there's no gilui evanaf really key. Now another point is the inyan of Eikev. The pasuk we say in Tehillim, avoina keva yisraeli, that the oven of the Eikev of the heel is surrounds it. Why? Sha'oven malim mastir alei nefesh. So number one, ikev means that the person is in a state of concealed, that the Eir Nefesh is not male. What's the reason for that? Avoina kev. It's the oven that causes it. Why? Like it says, person says that the sins they separate in us and the Eber. So Shemayim Master and Nefesh Sheina Bigul. While they did so, while they did Nasa Chadish of the Nefesh. So the sins cause weakness in the nefesh. That's what the pasuk also says in Tehillim. Because the oven, because of the sins, koshal keichi, my strength failed, weakened.
But the first one is the quality of the neshama, and the second one is just
Yeah.
or is the same thing.
One causes the other. That's what it says. Was shaykh. In other words, because the neshama is in a state of akevayim, that's why the sins can affect it.
Or the sin caused that.
The sin, yes, it's not. It's like the cause and effect of it is not so clear. What causes what? Like you said, first it's machma the pasha the madrege of the neshama. The neshama is the state of akevayim. Then he says that he said the lashon. I don't know what you're going to die in the lashon, but that's shaykh in the say. That level, because the neshama is chnesakevayim, that's why the sins can affect them. Talking other in some neshamas are not shaykh to sin. In the tzaddik of Tanya it's not shaykh to sin, but it's also possible that I don't know if you can say that neshama, a higher level of neshamas, the sin doesn't make sense to say the sin doesn't affect them. I think it's not clear here the cousin of. I think it goes together. The akavim of the oven of the it goes together because it's a low level of neshama. It's more shachta avodas. The male it's not male.
Because logically, if the neshama is coarse, it's so then by itself that's a problem itself. But then also it could be a good neshama, and then a person does the avera. It also blocks it.
Yeah, and you're right. You're right in Indian. You're right. We can say it's two different things. The neshama can be in the low level, and there can be the avera. Somehow here the lashon is not so clear. But zeh shayach lashon, but zeh shayach Indian when I carry vein. It's not clear whether again in the Indian for sure what you're saying is true, but what he's saying here in the Maimon is not clear to him. But he says because of the oven, the nefesh kosh of the keys weakens. The nefesh of the keys doesn't have the koyach to reach its own avir, especially not the fake nefesh Shabbat. The inyan of Yisuveni is Shemayim Master surrounds him. Yisuveni means but Mayim Master surrounds him that it hides, conceals the early given male shaloi found his bunch of so that causes like kilism. That causes that he doesn't reach close and nefesh to his bonus and that's so. So basically, what he says the Yisuveni is a sort of parallel to Aaron's Seva. Because the surrounding effect of the oven prevents the person from being able to be affected by the saver, but the recognition of the Eibishter is so removed.
Or the oven is wraps around him, no?
That's what he says right here. That's what he says, no? I want to understand. The Gemara says that the Aveir, the first time we heard it in Seit, the beginning of Seit, that the Aveir surrounds him, overpowers him. Like I said, it's the parallel and the opposite of Sever. Rather than that being surrounded by Likud, he's surrounded by the Aveir. Zebo, another, now he brings in another a third point to explain what the Yaakov means, right? Ikev. The third point is Zebo Gama Yaveh Shalom Dosh Ba'Keva. It's interesting. So, brother, there's a base missing here. Dosh Akeva. Dosh Ba'Keva. That's the famous Rashi in Pashas Eikev. That Sebeis, another ram is an Eikev. Adam Dosh Ba'Keva. Shekanim Be'inov. You reach that level when it starts with mitzvahs shalom dash b'akeva, mitzvahs that look light, unimportant, not serious. Kamoi, that what type of mitzvahs kalis the duk is safer. In other words, certain things that is safe. With Chazal were made certain gzeros. So in his view, the person views it as not as important as like the Reise, the Rabbanon. Mainly, he's not niza in them. So that creates that creates the Avoina Keva Yisafein. The Chazal say that there is Seifrim are really harder than the Yadua, that's negate to our people, to our Lam Desir, because there is Seifrim is going to save Kalam. What's the liber? That's a famous my mom Alter Rebbe Shirim also in Shmini Atzeres, Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golis. Now he explains the mile of mitzvahs derabanan over mitzvahs deraisa. That mitzvahs derabanan reach deeper than mitzvahs deraisa. Also the liber, like the famous marshal that when a father tells the child, or even a king tells his people, or even a friend tells another friend, he tells them what he should do or he shouldn't do. That's in the nimshal like mitzvahs deraisa. But then there's a situation that the child figures on his own what makes his father unhappy, and same thing with other mashalim. So that's no way deeper. In other words, he reaches such a place the father didn't even have to tell him what he doesn't like or who he does like. So that way it's different safe for him in a way. Reach a deeper madriga. Should be different. Seven is got save con. He brings in also the liber. Later is going to use also the liber further in the mind of the different also the liber and true. But here he also uses the language of also the liber. The diva is safe and reach a higher level of connection to the Eberstadt liber. Mele had a dig there is a minor master schleppen is gasalats. Some person is not medayik in the Seifrim. In other words, he's mezalzel. It's kalbein or them dosh ba'kevov. That in turn creates a situation of elevest. Shleish is galas that the rots and the oil of the key is not these galas. Kamoikin the averes hakanim gakim anim still on nefesh. I think it says what he says is Pasha the two. Maybe that's what you mean. Esse and loises heda digduk mitzvahs esse and averes kalis gamkemer. I think that's the difference between these two. That in other words, in the Chazal tell you certain mitzvahs esse had to do a certain thing, had in a positive sense. The mitzvahs esse. I think that's the difference between heda digduk and averes kalis. I think that's the difference. Because it's in other words, it's not to get to the big picture. It does break down the two parts. And when you get to Divrei Seifrim, there's either a digduk in Divrei Seifrim. The Divrei Seifrim is set to do something a specific way, and you're not even zazel. You don't do it exactly that way. That's one way that prevents the gilui of the Ratzon alien. and the Averis Kalim is in the negative. Only not. I think that's only the difference. Upon Zeu Shekosov. Oya Meishchem es Oven be'avle Ashov Avaisis Hagola. Okay, Avaisis Hagola Chato. So we looked it up in the Psukim in the beginning. The pasuk over here, the way it's written here, is not exactly the way it's in Tanakh, but we compare the oven to Havle Hashov, to meaningless volume, and a voice is a goal. That's more important. A voice is a goal. It's compared to the
Ropes.
ropes that he used to pull the carriage. Shemiri b'chavanim. Out of the ropes created. Shemiri b'chavanim dakin asa voice a goal chato. Shem vestagom. When they combine a lot of small threads, small narrow ropes, create a thick rope that can carry a heavy load, carry a goal. That's the motion. So the same thing. In the nimshal, there's a lot of various colors. The person does a lot of various colors. Eventually, it turns into a major voice. It's a goal. A voice is thick. It's thick rope. So a lot of various colors create a situation of Elam Vesta Goma.
So how is Havle Shav in here? There's no comparison.
Yeah, no. So I told you I think it says somewhere in Chazal Havle really remes of Havle also, but the important point is the voice agol. Like you said, Shemeri be'avonim dakim nasa voices agol chato. That when you connect a lot of small threads, narrow threads, and turns out in the very thick rope. So that's the nimshal in here. The various colors, each Avera is like a color. I'm sure that he just said before that it's not the sakal, but it brings a few ways to describe why Averis colors, mitzvah shalom dash ba'keva, even eventually that can turn into a major problem of that it might master very key.
It's interesting that in Tanya it says it uses the expression just like that we cut off the rope,
Exactly.
like we connected.
Yeah,
here
exactly.
it's like tying a rope.
Yeah, exactly. So it's two different. Yeah, they said it's two different mashalim that's similar, but they're very different. The opposite over there. In Tanya, he said Yaakov Chevel in the Gasachuva. Tanya Chevel Nachalos. It compares our connection to the Eibush to the rope, and he cut off small parts of the rope. Then he cut off the entire rope. So over there, he's talking about cutting the rope. So over there, the connection is the Chevel, and the cutting of the Chevel is the Aver. In our marshal, punkt verkehrt. In our marshal, the opposite. The rope is the marshal in the Aver, not in the connection. Punkt the opposite. So the thicker the rope means the stronger the Aver, that you're more the Aver carries you in the wrong direction. That's how he brings the lashon out. The pasuk says Kavaysa Gadola Chato. There is a chet, there is a sin, there's a failure. So, okay, you're right. So we have this. It's on the face of it, it looks similar to the marshal, but it's really the opposite. Okay.
I think that maybe the better analogy would be the like curtains, as it says other areas, other places that we learn. It's like the thicker the curtain, like if you have few curtains that on top of each other.
I mean the
blocks light. Yeah.
Yeah, but the pass good, true, but okay, but he's saying that if you want to explain the marshal, fine, the masach maybe is a better marshal. You're right. But the pasuk says that the chet is compared to thick rope that can carry a heavy load, and it pulls. In other words, No, the Avera pulls us in the wrong direction. The pull, it's a very strong pull because the rope is very thick and heavy. Salkoponim, so all this is explain why. Okay, so all this interesting arichos is just to explain the point. Why this beinus doesn't bring us to close a nefesh, because Yaakov, because the ikev. So number one, the nefesh itself in the state of a kavai, and avoina kavai seveni, and mitzvah shodom dosh ba'keva, averes, I'm sorry, averes dosh ba'keva. So all these three expressions in the concept of ikev explain Rabbi Yaakov lekilism, because there's a person is not in the right spiritual state. He doesn't feel elikus. He's doing averes, so all this prevents him from connecting, from the Isbana should affect him. Now he says there's even something more subtle. Lav dafka aveinas mamash, not just sins. Kim klolus chumris haguf. Who is not Shabbamis? Shemisal chotav is gash is master and is God nefshalikis. Even a person who doesn't sin, even a person who is good, but just because he has a nefesh Shabbamis, is vergräbt in the Dvarim HaMotorim, like it says in Tanya. A person is doing the right thing, but he's very vergräbt. He's very not refined. First of all, the fact that he has a desire and an interest in physical pleasures, so that itself creates situation of that self can be also, he doesn't say it clearly, but that self is Yaakov. That itself is also a concept of Eikev. It does not, just like the Eikev doesn't have a Gilui a Nefesh. That also prevents the Kilistim. Okay. Continue tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you.